Today's show is a little bit different. This is actually not an interview of one of our amazing folks out there, amazing guests on the show. Today is really actually a look back on 2022. We've been covering a ton of amazing people that work on a variety of different areas around the world. And we wanted to talk about today is really feature some of those things, some of the big trends that we've noticed in 2022 in a recap. And so I'm going to hand it over to our amazing producers here, and they're going to take you through some of the big themes from UNCAGED this year.
Never before in our lifetime has there been the top news story in the United States and globally that is about a health-related topic, i.e. COVID. So I think what this has done the last several years is it has empowered the patients. And the patient's voice is more pronounced than it ever has been.
I think around the industry in general, before COVID, there was this nothing, you have to do everything in person or it doesn't count. And I was really, grateful for the movement that telehealth and telemedicine has taken during COVID, because that's opened up the doors for a lot more people to seek help. And I don't mean just the people that were seeking help before, but it also opened up to rural areas where maybe you don't have great treatment resources or options. So that really opened the door a lot. So we did a lot of that. It was a lot of over, telehealth kind of help.
Data and digital is on the C-suite agenda, right? And there were always analytics teams that existed in pharma for years. We always bought tons of data. This has been going on for 20 years. So data, analytics, digital is not new. What's new is it's on the C-suite agenda. So that brings a lot of attention. It brings budget, right? And accountability, scope, authority to do things. But it also brings challenges because the entire company or industry is still operating a certain way, right? The go-to-market model, how you sell, how you think of campaigns and marketing. It's all very sort of traditional and hasn't evolved all that much as technology has evolved.
We saw a lot of businesses the last 4 or 5 years, and at the height of the pandemic for certain, but even before that, really understanding that in today's digital world, this kind of digital first world, it is so important to connect with people on that level that we mentioned, that human to human connection, because it's becoming so, it feels like to people, it's becoming irrelevant. You can talk to people through social media or through influencer marketing or retargeting ads or, the data-driven society. And yet when you lose that connection, that's really where you lose. And the businesses, the larger ones, the enterprise businesses who understand that are the ones who are really spending a lot of money in brand and rebrand and kind of brand acceleration, because they understand the importance of that. And there's lots of stats out there. People yearn for that human-human connection. And if a brand can provide that, they'll double their revenue from those individuals who feel like they're connected with a brand.
I think if anything COVID has taught us is how we operate business, it cannot be the same. So one of the biggest challenges we're facing is finding the right talent locally, and also looking to say, okay, how do we navigate that? And in lots of cases, we've had to actually move to a more remote kind of mindset to attract the right talent, because what we're finding is that even when we find people locally, the challenge now is around who wants to be in the office from who doesn't want to be in the office. And, while we have to find that balance, right? Because it's important to have that in-person connection, but we're also competing against companies that are offering, a remote style or even hybrid. So we have to kind of navigate that landscape.
We're managing our way through one of the toughest labor markets we've seen in the history of the company. Certainly the technology does wonderful things, but without the human being to use the technology, as a professional services firm, we don't have a lot more that we're able to offer. So a lot of focus on retaining our talent. That's been a focus all the way through the pandemic, and we've doubled down on it this year.
They really do untraditional things to try to find team members. You just can't put an ad in the paper or put something posted and expect that they're going to come. So we're trying all sorts of things, from referral programs, contests, you name it. We're trying our best to find people. But it's important that they know who they're coming to work for. I don't think we always tell people, here's what you're going to get. You give them very traditional things. Let them know that they're joining a family or whatever that culture of your company might be. I think that's how you attract team members.
As you think through now, companies trying to figure out what do we do to attract and retain people during what we've kind of all deemed this great resignation, that's a big, significant opportunity area. I like to see it as, because you got this question of, what does my company mean to you? And the employer-employee relationship has changed a little bit. Folks are now looking for additional flexibility that wasn't part of the contract before. They want belonging. They want psychological safety is a big piece of what folks are looking for. And so, employers are now on the hook to offer those things. What does it mean to be able to create both a culture and an environment that people want to be part of, and that they see themselves being better individuals for having been part of than they would have been without it? And that's kind of where the magic is at.
You take care of your employees. You want to create a culture to attract the best and the brightest. You take care of your supply chain, your customers, and also your community. And that community extends to the whole planet. And so we think this is really just the emergence of a regenerative economy based on justice and sustainability. We're working now with every public company to get them to reduce their emissions 5% a year over the next 10 years.
The shift towards renewable energy is a part of all of the agendas, from everybody that's owning the grid and distributing electricity through the traditional companies that have provided energy in the US. But the customer demand for that, the customer who wants to be in charge of saving money for themselves and is willing to put a mini power plant on their house to do it, that outweighs the pace of growth that would come from the traditional category.
Major barrier to women in the workplace is that our workplaces are still incredibly outdated. But what we found is that we have had to adapt, and we had to adapt incredibly quickly, right? To ensuring, that we adopted, a work at home or a hybrid way to really take into account that we were going through these unprecedented times. And we hoped, as we were going through the pandemic, that this would be a catalyst for, across employers, that they could see that the way that the workplace was set up was certainly not working for mothers, certainly not working for women in general, and to create a space where, women could actually achieve their goals.
This isn't anymore about just how we're going to have women get involved in the workforce. Women are in the workforce. And so we just can't deviate from that as a society anymore. So how can we do better and start setting it up where you actually have people at the table who are making decisions, understanding what the differences of things that women are facing?
This is definitely one of the strangest times to be in supply chain, and one of the most exciting times to be in supply chain. One of the biggest things we're starting to see and we're starting to talk about is scarcity. Scarcity wasn't really an issue. Maybe you couldn't always get exactly what you wanted, but you could get what you needed.
Right.
And now, all of a sudden, that paradigm is shifting.
If you look at the two biggest challenges that are facing retailers today, one is supply chain, how to get it in balance, because we went from not being able to get inventory to having a lot of retailers being quite overstocked this fall season, and recruiting, training, and retaining frontline associates. And, that is, you've seen this across, whether it's retail, whether it's restaurants, anything that's consumer facing. Could be bank, could be anything like that. So the key is, how do you attract people, but then how do you train them so that they don't want to leave? Money is important, but when you really dig in, what you realize is that for frontline associates, they want to feel engaged with the company. They want to feel a mastery over what they're doing.
Over a year ago, John Greenwood and I wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal, and we were the only ones who ever put a number and made a forecast, a technical forecast of what was going to happen with inflation. That's the number one topic right now. And we said a year and a half ago that inflation in the United States, we were using the quantity theory of money, kind of a Milton Friedman type monetarist model. And we said that the inflation would be 6% and maybe as high as 9%. Well, it is 8.5% right now.
Mhm.
So we hit the bullseye on that. So that is the epicenter of what people are worried about in the economy.
I spent 4 months speaking with 750 people, from people that just entered the job market all the way to the CEOs of the biggest unicorns. And we asked them anything that we could think of, from do you own any coins? Why do you? Why don't you? What part of your paycheck would you like to convert, if any? How much would you pay for a service? Like anything that we could think of. We noticed that there's a generation gap here, right? And each generation looks at crypto differently, right? So if you speak with Gen Zs, right, Generation Z, they want to get 100% of their paycheck in crypto. They believe it's the future. They don't want the banks. They don't want anything, new world stuff. If you speak with millennials, then you will understand they are kind of disappointed from their current position or their current financial status. And they're looking at crypto as their savior, as something that will make them millionaires. And if you look at people above 38, 40, they look at it exactly as a stock market. So a lot of people say Bitcoin is the next gold, might be in the future. Right now, I think that the majority of the market are looking at it differently.
NFTs, non-fungible tokens, crypto, decentralized finance, centralized finance. These topics are buzzing around in the last few years. And my take is simple. I mean, cryptocurrency and this whole decentralized finance is going to stay. And especially NFTs, the new age digital assets, is definitely going to stay here because literally every single physical asset can be pegged with an NFT in the future.
It's been an amazing year. Happy holidays to everyone. And we look forward to having a very, very powerful, very, very healthy, very, very successful 2023.